Do you remember The Wizard of Oz? Of course you do, at least if you're like me. And have you watched it recently? I ran across some people recently and never had heard about it, at least a vague memory of it, but had never watched it. And of course, uh, could you imagine someone not having seen the movie The Wizard of Oz? Well, this got me thinking. Actually, I made a comment one day at work and I said, well, that's a horse of a different color. And they looked at me, and so I started asking around, hey, what's the reference I made when I said that's a horse of a different color? And they had no clue. Well, do you know the reference? As I recall, Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz was on the yellow brick road, and they were gone through thick and thin to finally get to the city of Oz. And the doorkeeper opens up the door. I remember that being very ooh, scary, this face of this guy. And he says, what do you want? Or something like that. And she goes, oh, and he says, go away. The wizard isn't in today, because they had to go see the wizard because he had the keys of helping them out. The scarecrow, the lion, and the tin man. They were all in search of something, right? So finally she just said something. I'm trying to recall it here. You might have to help me out here. Well, what was it that changed? Because they kept knocking as he kept slamming, say, go away, the wizard isn't in. He's closed today. And they finally said something. Maybe he was listening to them talking, and he opens up the door and he says, well, why didn't you say so? That's a horse of a different color. And I think the horses there were purple. So he lets them in. So I just had to look up my reference to the doorman in The Wizard of Oz, because I couldn't quite remember why he opened the door, but I knew it was something about he heard them talking. Dorothy mentioned that the Wicked Witch of the East, the Good Witch, not the Wicked Witch, the Good Witch of the East had sent them there, and that was her ticket in. And that's when he opens it up and he says, bust my britches. Why didn't you say so? That's a horse of a different color. I don't know why that's always stayed with me, but it has. So this reference, many people had no idea what that saying meant, what it was a reference to. But one of the things I wanted to just mention today is this idea of, remembering the first few years that I watched the movie. It was filmed in black and white, but there is that scene in the movie where it turns to color. This was cutting edge because it was the transition. I was thinking it was in the late 30s that the storm had happened. As Dorothy opens the door after the tornado dropped the house on the Wicked Witch of the, I'm forgetting it was East or West. I think it was the West, because she ended up defeating the other Wicked Witch, her sister. But she kills the sister of two of the Wicked Witches. And of course, this sets up the whole drama. But when she opens the door, she's no longer in Kansas. It goes from this kind of dank and black and white world into this wonderful world of color, very bright. Now, for the first few years, again, I watched it. We watched it on a black and white TV. So we never saw it. And a faint childhood memory of mine, and maybe of yours, is the first time you saw The Wizard of Oz in color on a color TV. And I remember going, wow, the yellow brick road, everything, the colors just blasted, and were just so, so cool. It just was exciting to see something in color. Most of my early life in the world that I lived in was in black and white. Even in my days of teaching, when we did, this was an end of the year publication. It's all in black and white, or black and cream, color of the paper, because it was very expensive to print in color. Here was that student newspaper I referenced. We called it The Brick, all in black and white. And actually the kids loved it. The teenagers, 13 and 14-year-olds. There was Happy New Year 1996, mid 90s. So again, cost prohibited. We could have had color, but would have been very, very expensive. But the world of black and white, do you remember it?
Oh, 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 oh!
You know, I wanted to talk about this today with regard to the Wizard of Oz and this world of black and white and remembering it. Um, it was a different time. It's a time sometimes you long for. The world, in some ways, people probably think and feel that it was a better time in life. I think maybe as we get older, we often think of that the past is better than the present, and certainly less scary than the future. But in thinking about the world of black and white, the pictures, the magazines, the books, think of all the things, black and white, the videos, the movies. I think there's a lot. I don't know if a lot of anyone under 30 or 20 for sure has even seen a black and white movie. I almost think it should be required education to watch something in black and white and feel the difference. Now, in feeling that difference, there was a recent study that said, people, the hours they're spending on their smartphones, that if you go into your settings and just make it black and white, grayscale, and you can do this on your phone, it actually reduces your anxiety level. It reduces the amount of time you spend on the phone. It reduces the triggers that want you to constantly look at your phone. And this is supposed to be healthier for you. I think it obviously is. But yeah, it says it with daily, the average screen time reduction was approximately 20 to 40 minutes per day. I did this on my phone. It made me feel there's a comfort level when I see black and white on my phone. I also noticed, though, it's frustrating because I find that when I'm looking for a certain app, I know it by its color. And it's frustrating because when I'm in the black and white mode, which I do just for nostalgia's sake, I don't see the app jump out at me because I can't tell it by its color. I have to now look at the design or memory of where it should be on my screen. I ask you to try it and let me know in the comments maybe what you felt by changing the settings in your phone to the grayscale, taking all the color away, just in black and white. It's kind of fun. Do that. But the other types of things it showed that it also reduced the time of use in like Instagram and other apps, again, because it limited the impact of that app kind of like reaching out and saying, open me, open me. And lastly, let's see that the grayscale appears to be a helpful tool in reducing phone use and improving digital well-being through its effectiveness, although its effectiveness varies by individual and by tasks. I also I recall my first year of teaching, which at the time, full-time, 1985. To start the year, we did a baby picture for all the teachers showcase, and there was a contest in the school for the students to pick out who the teachers were by their baby pictures. And I will say this, in that staff of, I don't know, 40, 50 people, there was only one teacher's baby picture in that showcase that was in color. Now, most of the teachers in this school have been teaching 15, 20, 30, even 40 years. This is 1985, so you can imagine their baby pictures were in black and white. One was color. The old guy now was the youngest guy then, and I was the only one, and I think a lot of kids kind of knew it. As I think back again on the life in black and white, I recall all of the television that we typically watched in black and white. By the way, I do remember our first color TV was in the middle late 60s. Batman was a television show. I remember my parents finding the when it would go boom or splash or wow, whack or whatever the sound effects and the cartoonish little bubbles of emphasis that would pop up. I remember my mom laughing at it. But those years of black and white, Captain Kangaroo, the sign off or the American flag, again, all in black and white. It was an interesting time. Thinking too about newscasts with coverage of the Vietnam War, less striking in black and white because if you saw someone that was wounded or someone getting bandaged up, you did not see the impact of what color would have provided. Different times, yeah. A very different world, the world of black and white, the one we grew up in for a good part of our early lives. Now back to The Wizard of Oz. I got to thinking just the other day, again, it's an entertaining. I saw it as a very fun movie, one of the few movies in my life that I will rewatch or have rewatched. And when I watch it, I always get good feelings about, again, as a child watching that particular show, even knowing what's going to happen. And I like the fact it had a very good feel ending, right? Dorothy wanting and missing so emotionally her family. And of course, she found out all she had to do was to tap her ruby slippers to return. And the message that it was always available to her to go back. But this longing to go home, which was a central theme in the movie The Wizard of Oz, what I found, it just occurred to me a week or so ago, a couple weeks ago, what occurred to me was that in this world of color that was supposed to be so optimistic, welcoming, exciting, a world of invention and a world of possibility, that the true meaning in life and the longing for the most important things in life was found back home, which was in black and white. Because the movie did that masterful shift from the color, starting with the killing of the Wicked Witch, one of the Wicked Witches, and this journey and the new friends and the excitement of all the life was in color. But that in the end, going back to the most important people in Dorothy's life, which was her family and friends, when she came back out of the dream, she woke up, it was all in black and white again. And I feel that way today. And I ask you today, in terms of our memories and our history, even though it was such a more basic time, a simpler time, what would it be like to go back to black and white?
Whoa, whoa, whoa.
No. I like living in color. I like a world of colors. It's nice to go back and reminisce, but let's face it, the world's a lot more beautiful with color, like gray hair.